previously, we have talked about the variables and data, because the variable and data will determine whether you want to use open-ended or closed-ended questions. At the same time, you need to also consider the scale of measurement. So, what does it mean by variable? Variable, by definition, is an important characteristic to describe the population and the study, while data is the values of measurement or observation that the variable can assume. For example, if we want to collect the data on gender of 3 students, so let's say the first one is male, second one female, the third one is male. So gender here is called variable, and then male, female, and male here is called data. Another example, let's say we want to study the weight of a 3 adult in office, right? So maybe we can have a 50 kilo, 45 kilo, and 60 kilo of the respondent. So again, weight is called variable, and all the measurement or the value from the variable is called the data. So next is types of variable and data. So before we go further, please remember that your types of variable depends on the types of data. So types of data will determine the types of variable. So there is 2 types of variable in data. The first one is qualitative, or sometimes we call it categorical. Qualitative variable is where you cannot count nor measure the variable. This is an example. We have religion such as Islam, Hindu, Christian, Buddha, and then another example such as gender, colors, brand of a car. So that is qualitative, where we are dealing with categorical data. Next is quantitative, where quantitative is from the word quantity, so it means that it represents numerical value. In quantitative variable, the data can be counted and also measured. For example, the number of books you have read in a day, so maybe 2 books, 4 books, or maybe height of a student in the classroom, 140 cm, 166 cm, right? So the data is numbering, so that's why the variable is called quantitative. Quantitative then can be divided into 2, which is the first one is discrete and the second one is continuous. So discrete is when the variable can only take whole numbers such as age, number of children, number of students, number of books. Okay, so we cannot take any decimal value for age such as 2.5 years. So normally we will say 2 years or 3 years. Okay, the next one is continuous, where it can be in decimal form such as height, time, and speed. Discrete is where quantitative variable is being counted, where continuous is where quantitative variable is being measured. So next is scale of measurement. Why we need to know the scale of measurement? Because scale of measurement is used to determine the data analysis technique that will be used during analysis process. But before that, you need to remember that your scale of measurement depends on the types of variable and data. So there is 4 types of scale of measurement, which is nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Where nominal and ordinal came from qualitative variable, and interval and ratio came from quantitative variable. Alright, so first of all, we will see on the nominal scales. Nominal scales is a data consists names of categories, no ordering, okay, where every data is treated equally. Maybe we will use numbers, but we just use to classify the objects. However, nominal is the lowest among other scales. Okay, so for example, a nominal scale is gender, numbering for football players. Although it's a number, but it just represent someone with post in the football players. Okay, same as ID number. Although it's numbers, but it means nothing. The number cannot be added, cannot be multiplied. It just represents the student, okay, or the employee. The next one is ordinal scales. Again, the same thing as nominal scale, categorical data. However, this categorical data is arranged in some order or rank using numbers, but the difference between the numbers is meaningless. For example, we have education level, okay, and then we have grade of a student in a final exam, and then maybe we have satisfaction level and facilities. Okay, so everything is ranked orderly, so that there's importance level from each of the values. So for quantitative variable, we have interval scales, where ordered numerical variables with meaningful differences. No true 0 point means that 0 does not mean absence. As far as we know, 0 means nothing, but for interval scales, 0 doesn't mean absence, 0 means something. For interval scales, it can take value fall from negative to positive value. For example, we have temperature, CGPA, time, test score, dates. Okay, so the easiest way to differentiate interval is through the no true 0 point value. Okay, so for example, for temperature, 0 degrees Celsius doesn't mean the absence of temperature. It means that the temperature is very cold. So the next one is ratio scale. Again, same as an interval scale, where ordered numerical variable with meaningful differences. So different from interval, for ratio we have true 0 point, where 0 means absent. Okay, so ratio is the highest and most informative skills among all other skills. Alright, for example, we have income, height, number of children, and length. So let's say number of children 0 means that no children, that family doesn't have a children. So that means the 0 means absent.
As you can see on the screen here is an example of questionnaire that has been designed in order to achieve the research goal and research objectives. When writing a questionnaire, make sure you start your questionnaire with introduction and also the research title. This is to make sure that our respondent is aware of the situation. So by looking at this questionnaire, you can see that the first one, we start with the title, and then the next part is the introduction. When you do introduction, make sure you introduce yourself. So this is because we want to make sure that our respondent will feel secure when answer this questionnaire. Next, again, you should mention again on the title. So in this questionnaire, the cardiovascular term is emphasized again because maybe there is certain people who are not familiar with that term. And then don't forget to mention on the length or time taken to complete the questionnaire, because this will inform the respondent on how long should they provide for your questionnaire. And then don't forget to mention on the confidential of their details, so that again the respondent will feel secure when answering the questionnaire. So lastly, please don't forget to put your contact info, so that if there is anything regarding the questionnaire, the respondent can ask you directly towards the details that is provided. Okay. So next, okay, this is the questions. Okay, to make sure that your questionnaire is neat and organized, divide every question according to the section. So start with the simplest or the easiest question and end with the hardest question. So normally, we will start with a demographic profile where we get all the details of our respondents. When choosing a question to be included in your questionnaire, make sure it is based on two types. The first one is open-ended question and the second one is closed-ended question. So the first questions in the demographic profile here is an example of open-ended question. In open-ended question, respondents are given opportunity to answer freely every question that is given to them. However, sometimes open-ended questions will take too long to answer. So this will tempt the respondent to leave the question blank, to avoid to ask too many open-ended questions. So the next one is closed-ended question. So question number 2 and number 3 is an example of a closed-ended question. Closed-ended question is where the respondents are given choices or an option to give an answer. But sometimes their true answer is not included in the option. So what they do, they just choose any option that approximately close to their true answer. So this might end up the result from the questionnaire and the survey is not valid. So let's take a look on every question and determine what kind of a variable that the question will produce. So the first question on email address, this question will produce a qualitative data or qualitative variable with a nominal scale. The second question, gender, is also a qualitative variable with nominal scale. And each category here also will give a qualitative variable. However, it is on ordinal scale because the answer or the age categories is being ranked. Marital status is another example of qualitative variable with ordinal scale. So the next question, how many kids do you have? This one is open-ended question. So the answer that the question will produce is an example of quantitative variable with a ratio scale. Okay, household income here we can categorize as a qualitative variable with ordinal scale because the income has been categorized into types of income. And then highest education level is qualitative with ordinal scale. And lastly, do you have any health issues related to cardiovascular disease? This also is a qualitative variable but in a nominal scale. So the next section is the question that will answer all your research objectives and research questions. So the second section for this questionnaire is called lifestyle. So the first question here is asked about weight on 6 months ago. Okay, this is an example of quantitative continuous variable because we are measuring the weight. So its scale is supposed to be a ratio scale. Okay. So as the next question, which is your weight today, same as the first, which is it is a quantitative continuous with a ratio scale. The next question is the number of steps taken daily. So this one is an example of qualitative variable with ordinal scale because the data has been ranked accordingly. So the next question is an example of question with partially closed-ended and partially open-ended question. So this kind of question was created because the option in the closed-ended question might be not the same or different from the respondent's answer. So if we give an open-ended question here, so the respondent can answer the different question freely. So last question here is an example of closed-ended question with a qualitative variable and ordinal scale.